Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who that? Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we got a special guest with us. And look, if you follow Saints football, man, you know how hard this individual works, man, giving you up-to-date information about the Saints, the passion, the love that he has for the black and gold. I mean, it is beyond words, in my opinion. And it's an honor to be able to chop it up and talk some Saints football with this individual. You can check him out on YouTube as well as on social media. Trizzy Trace, I'll let him get into his social media. But Saints Now at Chat Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Trizzy Trace, Girouard. Trace, what's going on, man?
What is happening, squad, dude? I am so excited. It's been too long. We got to get this going. I'm pumped.
Look, man, like I said, man, it's an honor to speak with you, man. I mean that wholeheartedly. I see how hard you work.
I appreciate
and the dedication that you have to not only Saints Now, but just to give people up-to-date information. I mean, social media wise. But let's go ahead and start with that, man. Even before like we get into the Saints stuff, I mean, passion had to be somewhere in there in order for you to kind of do what you're doing. So, what was the thought pattern behind it, man? And where's the love for the black and gold come from?
Yeah, man. So my dad's side of the family, they're all from Louisiana. My dad's father grew up in Slidell. He served in the military. Before he passed away before I got the chance to meet him. So I wish I would have been able to learn those ties and get to know that a little bit better. However, I've always been a Saints fan. It's kind of a weird story. Growing up in the Dallas area, you would expect a Cowboys fan. Absolutely not. Never in God's green earth would I ever do that. That being said, when I was a kid, I loved playing Madden because I loved football and I loved the Saints uniforms. I loved playing with the team. They were super fun. And so when I was really, really young, I was like, all right, that's my team. I like the Saints when I was a kid. And then, I started actually watching football and kind of getting into it and paying more attention. And then they win a Super Bowl and I'm in like 4th, 5th grade. I'm like, all right, I'm locked in. This is it. This is great. Big Drew Brees guy, Jonathan Vilma, Marcus Colston. I was just like all in on those guys. My first jersey was a Reebok Drew Brees, like home jersey, man. Still got it at my parents' house in like a shoebox somewhere, man. But yeah, I've been a Saints fan as a kid. Went to Arkansas. You can see the Razorbacks thing. So it's kind of a weird story getting into sports. I actually wanted to do like physical therapy. And then I was like flirting with hospitality and management. Actually, I have a degree in hospitality management. And when I was in college, I got the opportunity to work for a local radio station that covered the Razorbacks. So I really developed a passion for talking about sports and, listening to sports and, more than just like to the podcasts I listened to and stuff. And then I started getting really into it. And then the job opportunity came to be, and ever since then it's just been an awesome experience, and my passion for the team has just gotten so much deeper, and my understanding of the game has grown. And I didn't come in to this job with like this absorbent amount of ball knowledge. I mean, I knew that I liked the Saints. I knew I had what I like to consider a strong work ethic. I really appreciate you showing love to that too, man, by the way. Man. I just was like, I really want to do something. I really want to build something for this company that I work for at Chat Sports. It's a great place and really great people there. And they had a Saints channel that didn't have a host, and they were like, let's put this guy fresh out of college on and see what he does. And I mean, since then, like I took it over when we had less than 2,500 subscribers, and now we're almost at 40 or
Yeah,
wherever
man.
past 40. Like it's insane. The process has been wild, but it's just been really cool, and it's been really awesome to connect with guys like you and Jono and Ross and Nick. I mean, all the great media people that talk about the Saints. Like, I'll say this: Saints fans are spoiled rotten because there's so many great podcasts and so many great media outlets. And some of the guys at the office, I don't want to throw shade, but the Raiders, they don't have great media. They, like, from what I understand, their insiders are all over the place. Their podcasters are crazy. I love my guy Mitchell Renz. He's my boy. I'll ride die for him. But hey, we're blessed. We're spoiled, and it's been a really cool opportunity. And I've just like fallen in love with the culture of Louisiana, and what New Orleans is as a city, and not just the food and the people, but like what the culture means and what it means to be a Saints fan, and the connection for the team to the city. Like it's unlike any connection to any sports team in any city, and I would argue, and across the world. Like it's really, really cool.
I mean, it is cool, man. I mean, I'm a native of New Orleans. I live out in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina now, but it's just nothing. It's nothing like home, Trace. And I mean, the reason why I like to shine light on your work ethic, because a lot of people think that it's easy, to be able to build some of these platforms, but it's not, man. To have the courage to be able to like get behind a microphone, get in front of a camera, and be able to like just pour out your love and your passion. And and wanting people to kind of feel what you're doing. That's why I admire that. And I tell you that, and it's not hyperbole. Like I seriously admire
I appreciate
your work ethic, man. But you mentioned New Orleans. You had opportunity to be a part of Radio Row now in New Orleans. So just tell us a little bit about that experience, man. You got an opportunity to meet some great reporters. I seen your interview with Ross Jackson. You knocked it out of the park there, man.
Appreciate it.
But what was that experience like going to the Super Bowl, taking a part in that event that week?
Yeah, man, that was really, really cool. Really unique opportunity. And like you said, I got to talk to a lot of different guys that do podcasts, do radio. I mean, and it was really unique too for me in my position. Saints obviously weren't there, but because it was in New Orleans, the city or the company was like, I'll send you out to the city. Let's go do it. And it was awesome. Like just getting to kind of put face and to like just introduce myself and meet people, because I'm, again, like I said, I'm from the Dallas area. I don't expect people to be like, oh, this guy's definitely just a diehard. So, like I get the questions and I get why people give me a hard time about it, but I'm like, it made me appreciate what New Orleans is as a city so much more, because I'd never been to the city for an event. I've been to visit with my dad. I've been to visit with friends. I've been with my church before, just go out there and stuff. And I never got to go for an event, and just the way that they put on for the Super Bowl was absolutely amazing, especially considering the tragedy that happened on New Year's Eve. Just like you would not have thought anything was going on. It was safe. It was clean. It was beautiful. The people were amazing. Like it was such a great experience just from that standpoint. But from a Radio Row side, it was really, really cool to get to talk to, different athletes. I got to chop it up with Seth Rollins for a second. That was kind of cool for the WWE fans. Like that was kind of just cool to just ask him a question. But yeah, it was cool to do that and just, just be around the chaos and be around the noise and just running into different players and different podcasters and radio guys and all that. It was just a really unique experience, and definitely one that I recommend when you get the opportunity, get the credentials. It's totally worth just being out there and just being around all of it. You get to absorb it all and just indulge in it. It's truly like nothing I've ever experienced. It was really cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't get opportunity to go, but I mean, so many people like they show pictures, a lot of like my journalist friends, that were down there. They're just talking about how much of an amazing time that they had, man. And just following you on social media and just seeing the work that you were doing. I mean, it just, it was just an amazing atmosphere. You can tell nonetheless. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some Saints football, man. I mean, this is something that, we've kind of talked about going back and forth on social media about the state of the Saints, no pun intended. Yeah. But just this offseason alone, Trace, like when we first got into this offseason, I think a lot of Saints fans expected for the Saints to possibly maybe finally hit that reset button and maybe seeing some usual suspect become unusual. But the Saints, in true Saints fashion, decided that they wanted to kind of keep things the same way. Basically saying, without saying, like, we didn't have so many issues with the team as people would indicate.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on some of the moves that the Saints have made, bringing back some of these usual suspects?
So I'm going to go defense first here, because my big questions were like the defensive line. I did not expect that overhaul to be as similar as it was. Like, you know, I could have expected Chase Young to come back. Like I was like, that's one they'll probably be interested in. And I think that one, although the contract is a little expensive, like he was top 7 in pressures according to Next Gen Stats. So if you turn those pressures into production, then that's something. You know, if you can get double-digit sacks out of him, that contract feels a little bit more justifiable. That being said, it's still a lot of money for it. It was a weird situation last year as a whole. Like I don't know. It feels kind of like a hard read on the roster last year, but
yeah,
like the defensive side of it, I was surprised to see Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders return. I love Bink. I'm a big fan of his, but I was, felt like it kind of made sense to part ways. Love the Devon Godshaw trade. I think that's a really underrated move, and he's going to be such a good, utility as a run stopper. And that's such a problem that they had last year. And so defensively, I was kind of confused. I was okay with them letting Paulson Adebo walk. Like he deserved the money. I wasn't really willing to pay him as much as the Giants were. Have fun with that, and congrats on the money. Juwan Johnson, that's an interesting one. Like I'm a big fan of Juwan Johnson as a player, and like I love his story, and like I like to think I'm a little bit more optimistic about him than some people, but it kind of is the same thing with me. If you can have Kellen Moore and lock him as a player, and he even acknowledges the fact that he does have a problem coming onto seasons late, like if he can address that and fix that, if you get 1,000 yards out of a tight end, like, okay, it's all like this money is a lot, but like if things work out, then it's a lot more justifiable, and it's a lot more like, okay, that's fair. Like I can see that, but it has to work out. Like that's the big thing. It has to work out. And if it doesn't, then feels like another waste of a year in my opinion,
Yeah. I was actually shocked about the Juwan Johnson re-signing, because a lot of draft boards had the Saints taking Tyler Warren out of Penn State at 9. And that wouldn't have been a bad decision. I mean, we know Tyler Warren, he's supposed to be like that Brock Bowers, type of possession tight end guy. I mean, they even had him lined up in the backfield. So, I mean, endless possibilities there. But once again, this is Mickey Loomis basically telling the NFL world and Saints fans that he really feels like injuries played a role. And Trey, I don't know about that. I think it did to a certain extent. Like, of course, like if you're missing Lave and
missing McCoy,
of course you're going to see a drop off. But I also look at it like you basically did this to yourself because you didn't draft well. I was talking to Mike Detillier earlier, and he was saying that the draft and not selecting the right players that can actually give you that immediate impact probably has been your downfall. What are your thoughts on that? Because on one hand, Trace, you see Zach Vaughn on this side living up to true potential. So a part of you feels like that was there. So, but people would say like Jeff Ireland, right? Like, is he's drafting bad? Are the Saints drafting bad, or are they just not utilizing these guys correctly?
I think the answer is just yes, like to both. Like honestly, like I think there's a little bit of like a waste of draft capital. And, you go back to the Chris Olave, Trevor Penning draft, you moved off like a total of 6 something picks to get 2 guys, which FYI, I love Chris Olave, happy with it. But like the Trevor Penning too, it's like, what are we doing? Like that's 6 picks that, you could have drafted and you could have had on the roster and potentially could have hit. Again, they have to be utilized correctly, but like, the potential's there where you could have 6 players versus 2. So, some of it I think is a drafting issue. I think some of it is overvaluing the relative athletic score and overvaluing the super athletic edge rusher that, can potentially do some really good things like a Marcus Davenport versus the obvious choice of just go get Lamar. Like, what are you doing? Like, why is this so complicated? You're making your life harder and you know it. And, I will also say the utilization is a big part too. And, the Falcons, they have Falcons. No, absolutely not. The Eagles have a good coaching staff. And I will say, they know how to maximize their roster and they know how to maximize their players. Vic Fangio is a great defensive coach, and they have a lot of great coaching staff members that can build and help guys like Zach Bond. And, it was really interesting. It was I was like, oh, they're going to totally bring him into Philadelphia, use him as an edge rusher, exactly like, the Saints should have been doing. Cause that was so good in college. And then he's now an a great all pro, if I believe, off ball linebacker.
Right.
Dennis, what are you doing? And it kind of makes me think again. It's like, Dennis Allen. He's a defensive guru. Maybe he doesn't have the head coaching stuff, but he can be a defensive guy. But then you're wasting potential in Zach Bond, who could have been great. That could have been very beneficial for the Saints. And I think the linebacker is a need for the Saints. And I would have loved to see Zach Bond succeed in New Orleans, but obviously, and didn't work out that way. And the departure made sense at the time. But you look back and you're like, man. It is a drafting issue, but it's a utilization issue too. And I think it's a development problem. And, I think that the previous coaching staff, especially in the defensive line, hasn't been great. And I also think that the defensive scheme was kind of outdated too, where it's not saying that the 4-3 isn't a good scheme, but you have these athletic edge rushers, let them stand up and go get them. Isaiah Foskey, his whole thing was that he is an athletic, high effort, high energy player. Let him go get him. And same with Chase Young. He's an athletic phenomenon. Let him get up off the ground and just use their athleticism to win. And I think it's just a wide variety of issues of drafting, scheme, not utilizing the players correctly, not setting them up for success. It's just a weird situation that New Orleans has had a problem with. And I will continue to say it all, if you can have all the issues down here, but it all starts up top. It all starts up top. Because somebody up there is making the executive decision. Someone up there is signing the checks, and somebody's making poor decisions, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the Saints and Dennis Allen's philosophy. I think of Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. They were really effective. It wasn't like how it was when, the Clippers had DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, Lob City, right?
Sure, yeah.
But they were so fundamentally sound, and they won a lot of football games. And I think that is what Dennis Allen is. Dennis Allen is a guy who can put together a really good defensive plan. He'll have guys where they need to be, but they may possess certain athletic skills, but it's not necessary in his defense because he wants you to be right here. I think that with this new defense that Brandon Staley will bring in, you'll probably see more of these guys' athleticism. And I had a cause to pause, Trace, when it came to evaluating some of these players, because looking at Zach Bond leave out the door, Trey Hendrickson leave out the door, and seeing them find that success elsewhere, even though Trey Hendrickson had 13 and a half sacks on his way out, he showed you. Yeah. But what I'm saying is Isaiah Foskey, who knows? This guy might end up being really talented. Us saying that this guy sucks or he's a bust, I just feel like it's totally unfair, because we need to be asking a question: does he suck, or what the Saints are asking him to do makes him suck? So I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of hard for me to evaluate these guys and say, oh man, you just throw them away. When I see these other guys go other places, they get utilized the way they were supposed to, and they live up to that full potential. But with that, this NFL draft, it seems to me that the New Orleans Saints, they are trying to, number one, draft players that can serve as depth. Some guys are going to be starters, but it seems like by signing the Juwan Johnsons and bringing back the Chase Young, it seemed like they want to have their younger guys as rotational guys. So, I mean, everybody has done it. Let's talk a little bit about a mock draft. So if you were picking for the New Orleans Saints at 9, who would you go with and why?
So with the number 9 pick, I've been kind of consistent with it. I want to go an offensive weapon. If Shedeur falls, you could twist my arm and talk me into it, but I'm still kind of I'd still rather get a weapon. I'd rather get a Tet McMillan. And I know we brought back Juwan Johnson, but I don't think that should stop the Saints from getting a Tyler Warren, because I do think that a 2 tight end set with those two guys would be really fun. I think that'd be really interesting. But also, I think that, getting a guy in the offensive line, sure, that's beneficial, but you use so many draft picks in the first round on linemen and on trench guys, and those are valuable things to do. But at some point, you also have to add talent, and I think the overall skill level of the offense is something that needs to be raised. And I think that you do have high end talent, but you don't have a lot of high end talent. Like, I think Chris Olave is a great football player. Okay. I think Rashid Shaheed is very underrated as a football player. I think he's a great speedster. I think he's a great downfield threat, but like, is he a true wide receiver too? Those are questions that we still have to find out. And can he be? Sure, maybe. But, I also think if you have a guy like Tet McMillan, that's who I really, really want. I think that he provides a really nice complement to Chris Olave. And I go back and I look at, some really good offenses across the league, and, good Saints offenses as well. And I think that some of the best offenses out there have a great skinny guy and then a great big body guy. Like, I mean, you have a route running technician, phenomenal wide receiver, just overall great player. But then you have a guy who's just physical and will out body and just be a baller. Like, right. And you need that alpha presence on the offense as well. And I think you get that in Alvin Kamara, but you need a little bit more of that swagger in the wide receiver room, in my opinion. Right. And I think that having a little bit of that attitude, a little bit of that confidence doesn't hurt whatsoever. And I just love the idea of Tet McMillan. He fits the size profile of exactly what the Saints are missing. They don't have a wide receiver that's over 6'2" right now. Like, that's a problem in my opinion. And you can have all the speed in the world, but if you don't have a guy to run over the middle, it's a problem. And that's, where you can throw your tight end in there, but Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, those guys are going to have to take a break to get a sip of water, tie their shoes. They get hit, they get injured. Things happen. Like, it's a human sport and things happen. Like, right. You got to have options, and you got to have an overall higher talent level on the offensive side of the football. Because I think that there is talent. I think there is a good skill set there, but I think what they're missing is a physical presence. And I think they got speed. I think they got great route running and, elusiveness and creativity, but they got to have somebody just, bring a little bit of muscle, bring a little bit of size to the offensive playmaking.
Man, you speaking my language. I've been saying this for a while now when it comes to the wide receiver room. And we just saw a case that you were alluding to. Like, Devontae Smith is the smaller guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? But on the other hand, you got A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and I'll add this. Sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, man.
It also felt like Devontae Smith was doing really good stuff early in his career, and similar to Chris Olave, really good stuff early in the career. But it felt like he was truly unlocked when A.J. Brown came into the fold.
Right.
And it felt like he was maximized because you're not the main wide receiver one. You have a 1A and a 1B. Yep. So either one of those guys can be a threat. Either one of those guys can be the target. Like that, it just not all the focus is on Chris Olave.
Yep. And also to help your case as well. I mean, look, AJ Brown was down for a few games, and Devontae Smith, he stepped up, made some plays, and he emerged as that number one guy. Like you said, 1A. Chris Olave, I feel like, will be able to eat and be successful as a wide receiver if he has that guy like Telleroy McMillan that can be on that opposite side that demands a double team. I mean, a 6'5" guy, that can jump out of the gym. I mean, he's going to be a matchup problem. Yeah. And Chris Olave in his own right is a matchup problem. He's going to win those one-on-one matchups.
Absolutely.
And so is Shaheed. So I think it's about making your offense as deadly and as effective as you possibly can. And yeah, McMillan definitely will bring that. Or if you don't decide to go with McMillan, I mean, the fact that he ran a 4.4 is going to make things more appealing. You got the Raiders. You got the Raiders, and you got the Patriots out there that are looking for that number one guy. So that's murderous row.
And teams could trade up in the middle of the draft too. Like at the split second, a team can just hop up and move up to go get their guy. I mean, I'm a firm believer, especially at this point with the NFL. Like, we've seen it multiple times where we're like, dude, why are you picking that guy so early? And it turns out to be a good pick. It's like, if that's your guy, you're gonna go get your guy. And it's interesting. I saw a weird stat or a weird fact. This is the first time in the modern draft era that there hasn't that the teams going into the new league year all have their own first round pick or something like that. And this is the closest that we've been since the 80s or 90s or something, or a long time ago to the draft, that the draft hasn't changed whatsoever. Like everyone owns their own first round pick. So it feels like a trade should happen. Like we're due for one, right? So, maybe it's for a quarterback, maybe it's for an edge rusher, maybe it's for Travis Hunter, maybe it's for Tet McMillan, maybe who knows? It could be for anybody. And this is a interesting draft class. And I'm curious what you think about it. Like defensively, like that's a side of the ball that really needs some help too. So, what are your thoughts on going with a Will Johnson or, one of those defensive linemen or like even a Malachi Starks or something?
Man, I'm not objective to that because you look at the Saints, they do need a cornerback. I mean, Paulson Adebo is gone, and rather, whatever feelings that Saints fans may have about him, I mean, he leaves a huge void there.
Yeah.
You got his Kool-Aid McKinstry, you got Alontae Taylor. I mean, Gene Charles is gone. I think he went to Seattle. I mean, so you got to be able to kind of beef that up. I mean, I wouldn't get upset. I've said this before. Unless the Saints get like a Sebastian Janikowski or something, like a kicker or a punter, like in the first round, then I'm like, man, what the heck are you doing? But I feel like defensively, I wouldn't be upset with that. If they was to get James Pierce, I'm not upset with that. If they was to get Michael Williams from Georgia, I wouldn't get upset with that because Trace, when I went to the combine, man, these defensive linemen that were working out, these guys are freaks of nature.
Yeah.
And this is what I've been trying to tell Saints fans. Like, you are going to see a third or fourth round pick defensive lineman, interior guy that's going to end up being an all-pro. That's how deep this draft is. So when I think one of my mock drafts, I had Kennard out of South Carolina. This guy had 11 sacks this past season. And I had him in the third round, and people were like, well, why don't the Saints address it early? I'm like, do y'all understand like how talented this guy is? The fact that you even would have him in the third round would be, I mean, that's like finding Alvin Kamara in the third round to me.
Exactly. Well, so, and I think that's a great point too, because this draft has a lot of depth in some different positions. Like there's not a lot of quarterback depth. There's some good wide receivers, but not a lot of high-end wide receivers. There's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of defensive linemen. There's a good amount of corners. There's a good amount of this is a good linebacker class too. This is a really interesting class where you don't have to go and get Will Johnson in round one. You don't have you can truly go and get the top guy on your board at number 9 if he's there. And honestly, at number 9, depending on how the board falls, you have an opportunity to get still the number 1 option at really whatever position you want to address, as long as it's not quarterback, because Cam Ward will be gone. You can get the number 1 running back probably in Ashton Jeanty. You can probably get the number 1 wide receiver in Ted. You can get the number 1 tight end. Will Campbell's available. Maybe Mason Graham. Maybe, like you said, James Pierce. There's a lot of different options in this draft. And one that I saw, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, he mocked Jahad Campbell, the linebacker at Alabama, at number 9.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I like that selection in terms of the player. I don't like it at 9 though. I think that's a little early, but again, I'll just go back to it. If that's your guy, that's your guy. You can't knock him for wanting to go get their guy.
Yeah. I mean, I got him as a second round, like an early second round pick. If the Saints do decide, to draft him in the second round, I think he probably would be there for them. But like you said, the number 9 pick, I mean, it just opens up endless possibilities. Teams are going to reach for certain players. You're going to get some phone calls. I'm still listening. If let's just say you might want Ashton Jeanty, but maybe he's not your first choice. And let's just say Chicago, who picks right after you, we know that Ben Johnson likes to have a good running back. So who's to say you might end up getting their first round pick, and they may be able to add something else. And that's another player that can come in that can make an immediate impact, and you only lost 1 spot. So you still can, build your team and get a really talented player in the process. I wanted to see, are you okay if we actually just go to the chat and see what people are saying right now?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Because man, a lot of people, when I told them that I was interviewing you, they were excited about it. So we just want to see what they're saying. Okay. JT says, Trace, I'm the only one said the Saints need to go up and get the player they want. I mean, Tracy, you pretty much saying, what you were saying, trust the process, trust the player that you want to select, and feel like that guy's going to make that impact.
Yeah. And also with Kellen, I want to add one thing with Kellen Moore being a first-year coach. Like, I think you got to give him the ability to have his creativity and put his fingerprint on the draft. Like, don't let me, like, I hope that, with bringing back Carr, it kind of feels like Kellen Moore conceded to Mickey Loomis in this situation. I hope that he kind of sticks his backbone up and says, like, if I want this guy, I'm taking him, make it happen. Like, because you have 6 picks in the top 150. So either A, you can trade up and trade around, you can get 6 different players. Like, let him get creative with it, because if Kellen Moore wants specific guys on the offense and Brandon Staley wants specific guys on the defense, let them do that, because it's at least something new and different, because what has been going on hasn't been working.
Yeah. Let me ask you this before we get to the chat, because there's a question that someone has that I want to get your opinion on this. Okay. So when that decision happened, and by decision, I mean when Kellen Moore basically conceded to the whole Derek Carr situation, people were looking at it as if Kellen Moore was a tad bit weak, and that's the real reason why Mickey Loomis decided to bring him on. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like he should have, I guess, like, pushed back a little bit more? Like, what was he supposed to do in that situation? Was it right for him to just kind of fall in line in that case?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it kind of feels like it was. Like, as bad as it sounds, I think financially it just made more sense to keep him around. And, I also, like, it's twofold, because one side of the coin, Kellen Moore's a first-year coach. There's not very high expectations in general. You're going to have a few years of leeway anyway, so might as well try. But on the other side, it's, well, financially, it might make more sense to do this year. Maybe, just maybe, I know the injuries and, like, that stuff is, like, annoying, but, like, obviously the Panthers and the Cowboys were not great football teams, but, those 2 first games, and you hung with the Eagles, who went to go in the Super, like, the injuries really did cause a lot of problems. And maybe Kellen Moore's like, okay, I'm also a better coach than Dennis Allen. I can fix this, and we'll have a better coaching staff, and we'll figure it out. Like, so maybe there's some of that, but ultimately I feel like for Kellen Moore, it was a decision of, I don't have my quarterback in place. I don't have my replacement. And, I kind of compare this to, like, the Broncos situation when they moved off of Russell Wilson, took on a massive cap hit. They draft Bo Nix, and it works out.
Right.
If it didn't work out, then we're going to be sitting here having a conversation if they're a horribly run organization and Sean Payton is an idiot. But that's not the case. Like, and if Kellen Moore in year 12 of Derek Carr can find something that we haven't seen, awesome. I'm not going to sit here and say I dislike Derek Carr as a human being or as a player. I'm kind of more so over the undying loyalty, where it's like, we know he's aggressively average, and that's okay, but, like, let's this isn't working. I don't want to just try to make the playoffs. I mean, right now that's where we got to get to, but I'm also like, we've done the same thing for 20 plus years at this point. Like, it's been the same song, same dance, trying to recreate the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era. Let's evolve. Let's do something different. Let's have some fun. Like, because at the bare minimum, it doesn't work, but it's something new. And it's like, well, we didn't expect it to work, because it's the first year of this whole thing, or this whole operation. And like, I will say, with Derek Carr being around, in my opinion, there is an expectation now for Kellen Moore. There is at least a certain level of, like, you have an experienced veteran who has been proven, who has had some good moments in the league, who had good moments with the Saints. Like, if this is what you're the wagon you're hitching yourself to, there better be some wins. Like, and I think all Saints fans in general, like, they did a good job of buying the fan base back in, kind of a little bit with the coaching staff and some of the, bringing guys back home that were from Louisiana and free agency and stuff. I think that they've done a good job of doing that and trying to reset a culture, because that's a big problem too. The Saints don't have a good culture. They don't have an identity, and the best Saints teams have had identities. The best teams in general have identities. Yeah. So when you bring some of these guys in to try and set a culture, try to build something, it's good for the short term and the long term, but you got to still have your plan in place of, who's my quarterback? Do I like Jackson Dart in round 2? Do I want to go and roll the dice with Spencer Rattler? Like, it's just a weird thing. And I will say this, I kind of wish they would have still moved off of Derek Carr, because if you roll the dice with Spencer Rattler, You only get 2 wins. Well, guess what? Yeah, the top 3 pick.
Right.
Not a bad
worst case scenario.
You can get your guy. Yeah, worst case scenario, it's a long season with low expectations, and then you can go and get whoever you want at the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it 2 ways. Like, I don't feel like the decision to keep Derek Carr is like him conceding or him looking weak. You know, I think that Saints fans need to understand that. I mean, by keeping Derek Carr, they were able to restructure the deal and save some money. I mean, right now, they're about $33 million over the cap or something like that. So
over the cap has it $32 million right now, which top 15 in cap space. Like that's really good money to spend, and that's money that you can use later on to either A, soften the blow for the Derek Carr cut, or B, build around him.
Right. Yeah. So I look at it like, okay, he was looking at it from an organizational standpoint, because there's nowhere in the world that I want Saints fans to believe that Kellen Moore doesn't have any type of say-so. Just think about the process that got us to this point. Like, look how many coaches said, no, I'd rather go over here.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, he kind of fell to you. You know, I mean, so he understands that. So it's not like he has to feel like he has to keep his mouth shut. Like, just the very fact of him decided to be the Saints head coach, coming off of a Super Bowl victory where his offense looked completely dominant against a team. I mean, they were on the ropes throughout the season, but they still were the best team in the AFC. So he could have easily just walked in and had that Sean Payton type mentality. Like, look, man, this is where the buck is going to stop. But he wants to play ball, and I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, he's doing it for the betterment of the team. Now we keep on having this conversation 2-3 years down the line, and Derek Carr is still on his football team, then maybe we need to have a different conversation. You know, like, but I don't look at what he did, you know, as an indictment on him. I just feel like he just did what was best for the team. But
I agree. I totally agree.
But speaking of quarterbacks, got a couple of questions here. They involve Jalen Miro and Jackson Dart. Okay, Jamal says just don't get Dart or Miro at 9, but Brandon says Mel Kiper has a drafting Dart at 9. I don't know where the heck this came from, Trace. I really don't. Like, Jackson Dart just all of a sudden just became the overnight sensation, threw a couple of decent passes during a passing portion of the combine, threw a deep pass on a rope. Now all of a sudden, let's slide him into the top 10. Now, what are your thoughts on Jackson Dart as well as Jalen Miro? Because I guess we got to talk about him because he did run a 4.3 at his pro day.
Yeah, so I'll start with Jackson Dart just because that was the mock draft from Mel Kiper. That's it. No, not at 9. Like, what happened in the last 2 weeks, where all of a sudden he was a 2nd round guy to now he's a top 10 guy. Like, I don't know what happened. It feels like every year they do this with a quarterback or multiple quarterbacks where they're like, I'm old enough to remember when Mel Kiper was putting Malik Willis in the top 5, and I'm like, you know, it just clearly didn't work out to be that case. And I'm not, and it's not an indictment on those players or anything. Tennessee's a terrible situation. In Green Bay, maybe he can do something there. But my point being, like, I don't like it at 9, man. I don't think it's a good idea at 9. 2nd round, I can have a conversation about it. I could be willing to talk. And I'm not as high on Jalen Milroe as some people. I will say the athleticism is very, very impressive. And I do believe with good coaching, you can iron out a lot of problems. And I think Kellen Moore, being a quarterback, he knows how to work with quarterbacks. I think that that's a good thing for any quarterback to come into the New Orleans Saints situation. So in terms of at 9, absolutely not. Like, I just think there's so many better routes you can go. Like we talked about earlier with getting a top tier defensive guy, getting a high level offensive weapon. Like, it just feels like that's a smarter route to go. That being said, you know, again, round 2, I'd be willing to have a conversation about it. Just, I'm not in love with like this quarterback class in general, though. Yeah. Like, it feels like it's trying to be force fed. Like, it feels like they're trying to force feed quarterbacks.
Good point.
And I don't know. Like, I would rather wait. I'm in the camp of I'd rather just wait to draft a quarterback. There is also the argument, if you don't have your franchise guy, you keep trying until you get him.
Yep.
So I can get that side of it. And there is definitely upside between Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart that Kellen Moore can probably have some fun with. But
Yeah.
9 is a little rich, man. 9's a little rich.
Yeah, I just think Jalen Milroe just got Sean Payton written all over him. Like just especially him running that 4-3.
Oh my goodness.
How he can basically, just line them up. I can see like a Taysom Hill type of reincarnation thing type going in Denver. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. If Milroe is there like in the 3rd round, Broncos got a pick. He decides that he wants to go ahead and pull the trigger
for sure
and try to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Greg says, TJ, we need a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback, but like you said, Trace, this is one of those situations where I feel like a lot of people are trying to convince themselves, and maybe it's just because we're told that it's a quarterback-driven league, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're told that the quarterbacks are the straw that stirs the drink, but I feel like Jackson Dart is being talked into the room. You can make a case, for Cam Ward. You can make a case for Shadur Sanders. I mean, the completion percentage, the accuracy of Shadur.
The toughness. Toughness too is incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And also, the playmaking ability of Cam Ward, I can understand that. But with Jackson Dart, it just feels like people like, they seen a Gator Bowl, I guess, he threw that dime on the rope. I mean, it was a good pass, man. It was a dime breezy.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, like, I feel like he's more like a high 2nd round pick, but this is the type of landscape that we're in. Teams are going to reach for a quarterback, especially if that quarterback ends up being good. They don't want to be that team that passes up on that opportunity, but I definitely feel like he is indeed a 2nd round talent. Jamal says, hell no, I'm not building around no Derek Carr. I mean, doesn't it seem like they're trying to make a case like they want to build around Derek Carr? Is this a mistake that they're even making this type of indication, like that they should build around Derek Carr? Isn't he what you see is what you get? Am I the only person that feels this
no,
way?
No. I'm totally with. Again, what are we going to learn in year 12 that we haven't learned in the first 11 years? Like, and with Derek Carr, like the way they're operating is we're trying to win right now with Derek Carr, but I also feel like the way they're spending their money and the way they're not the way they're kind of operating is it's like they're trying to win this year with the possibility of moving on next year and maybe, but like you said earlier, if we have this conversation in 2 or 3 years and Carr's on the roster, then there's going to be some riots and there's going to be some people upset, me included. But I'm totally with you. Like, what are we going to learn in year 12, man? Like, it's just. Don't build around him. Give him tools to succeed, but don't build around him. He is what he is.
Yeah. Look, I just feel like they should have just allowed Spencer Rattler to go out there and feast the famine. This was the moment, Trace. This was the year where I gotta go back to like me growing up in the 90s. The last time I felt the fan base had such low expectations for a football team. This was their time. Like, whatever they did, people like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we'll see you in 2026.
Yeah.
But the fact that they pushed this out here and start re-signing guys and bringing back Carr, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, people were willing to give you levels of grace, and you just like, okay, it was a mistake. Last year was a mistake. I don't know how. Look. The first year where Dennis Allen was the head coach, they said that it was the Sean Payton layovers, right? I mean, the defensive coordinators, all those different guys, like all that water cooler talk. I can coach this team better than he can. Okay, get him up out of there, all right? So he brings in his defensive guys, and then they still don't get the results. So they fire Pete Carmichael. They use him as the scapegoat. Last year was Dennis Allen as a scapegoat. How many more scapegoats can you have until you start looking at the general manager and Mickey Loomis? Do you think, like, Trace, do you think that this front office has the courage to be able to willingly go to Mickey Loomis if this season doesn't pan out, have a conversation with him saying, Mickey, we love you, but it's time to go in a different direction when it comes to GM. Don't you feel like that's only right? I mean, you gave him an opportunity, dude, to fix everything or hit the reset button, and he chooses to run it back again. So you're basically telling everybody that there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. So shouldn't we evaluate him accordingly? That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I totally think so. Like I'll say this: how many GMs get this many screw ups in a season and still get another opportunity? And how many times do you get to miss on draft picks? How many times do you get to make bad trades? How many times do you get to offer bad contracts? How many times do you get to have losing seasons? 4 straight years of missing the playoffs in the worst division in football is an absolute joke. You don't even need to get to double-digit wins to get to the playoffs, and the Saints have yet to do that. And like you said, there was the scapegoats every single year. At some point, you run out of scapegoats. You just got to go to the goat herder, to the shepherd, and just be like, you're not doing your job. Like, and maybe it's one of those things where I don't think they'd ever fired Mickey Loomis. I don't think they're going to be like, you're fired, you're out of here. I think it would be more of a, we're going to move you to an advisory role, or like move you. I don't think that they have the stone. They haven't proven, at least, that they have the stones to just upright fire Mickey Loomis and get him out of the building. Right. But what I do think is, you have to be honest with the team. You have to be honest with the fan base. You have to be honest with where you're at as an organization. And, I'll give Gail Benson a little bit of credit here. The fact that she went a little bit over Mickey Loomis and had conversations with people in the team and in the locker room, and ultimately came to the decision to fire Dennis Allen. I'll say that won me a little bit of like, okay,
right,
fair enough. Like
it was necessary.
Fair. Yeah, it was
necessary, Trace, because
7-game losing streak.
Yeah. God. Not only the 7-game losing streak, man, but everybody just kind of looked at her as if she's the New Orleans Saints Queen Elizabeth, right? Mm-hmm. Come down there on the golf cart, like do the queen wave and keep it moving. I think that Saints fans needed to see that bulldog side. Like, we gonna force your hand here. I think that it made a lot of Saints fans respect her more. Like, Saints fans respect Gail Benson, in my opinion, for the way that she carries herself, the elegance, the grace. Yeah. But I just feel like as a shrewd businesswoman, when shrewdness needs to take place, I think a lot of people question that. So the fact that she actually jumped in, intervened, and had those conversations outside of Mickey Loomis makes me feel comfortable that she would do what is right. Now, he's not going anywhere because he made our Teflon. And when Tom Benson passed, he left him in his will. Because he has that type of respect for him. So he still will serve on the board. But that's cool. Like, as a businessman, I'm I ain't got no problem with that. Like, I'm not going to say that Mickey Loomis never did anything that was like meaningful. Like, he brought in 2 of the most important people in franchise history. Like, people may not want to admit that, but he did. Yeah. But just like everything in life, man, sometimes it just comes to an end. People lose their fastball, man. You lose that speed. You lose that jump shot. It happens. All I'm saying is, whatever happened, okay, you want to run it back, fine. But Trace, if it don't pan out, please have this conversation so we can get a general manager that can get this team where it needs to be.
I totally agree. And one thing about it, like, Mickey Loomis is the longest tenured GM in the league. That doesn't happen on accident. Like, you have to do something good throughout your tenure. You have to do at least one good decision. And, they won a Super Bowl. And, towards the end of Breeze's career, they were trying to get that one more. They were trying to keep going. They were a blown pass interference call away from what I believe winning another Super Bowl. And, it was one of those situations where you go, if you're winning games and you're competing, nobody cares about the contracts. Nobody cares about all that stuff. So if you get back to winning, you buy yourself time. That being said, the fans are the ones who put butts in seats. The fans are the ones who are buying the merch. The fans are the ones who are tuning into TV. The fans are the ones that ultimately turn this business into a much more profitable thing. And, you do have to operate from a business standpoint at certain times. And sure, there can be the loyalties of, I love this player. He's been a great guy for such a long time. But at a certain point, you look across the league, I can't think of very many general managers that are winning Super Bowls and competing for Super Bowls that are very, 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 very old. Like, it feels like Mickey Loomis is old. It feels like Howie Roseman, he is young, he is fresh, he is a very aggressive, he's a very smart business guy. And, it's also one of those things where, like, there's so many other general managers and ownership groups that are like fresh and willing to change and willing to, adhere to the league evolving. And the Saints it feels like they're getting left in the dust every year that they're not making these changes. So like you said, I hope they do. And I think that they can, because Gail Benson going and firing Dennis Allen made me believe in her a little bit more. But they got, like, if things don't go well, then yeah, you got to make a call. But if they do go well, then, well, you got another year of Mickey Loomis. I mean, if they win the NFC South and they're in the playoffs, I hate to say it, he's here another year. He's here another couple years. That's just, and so is Derek Carr. Like, I think if you're a fan and you don't want Mickey Loomis, you don't want Derek Carr, the biggest thing you're rooting for is a 3-win season. Like, because then you have no choice but to get rid of these guys.
Right. I feel like I'm way out in left field when I say this, but I feel like it needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that Mickey Loomis is at war with the fan base. He's at war with the journalists.
It feels like he's trying to prove he's smarter than everyone, man. It feels like he's like, you can say what you want. I'm smarter. At the end of the day, I'm the one who's puppeteering all this. Like,
yeah. And I mean no disrespect by that. Like, yeah, that's it. He's a competitor, right? You don't get where you are in business without being a little bit competitive, feeling like you have things under control. Like that's kind of management 101. Like, don't let people see you sweat, but don't let them see you sweat. But when reality is staring you in the face, as well as the people, they can see this reality and you choose to act as if this reality doesn't exist. That's when I feel like people really get upset with Mickey Loomis, because if Mickey Loomis was to show Saints fans that he understands how they feel, then I don't think we'll be having this conversation. I think people are still kind of having these conversations, but they will be like, okay, he understands the needs of this team.
Yeah.
But when people question the decisions and when people question the direction of the team, and when you start deflecting and blaming other things, it just makes people like look at you completely different. And here's something I've been telling Saints fans here on this channel. Mickey Loomis talks to the media every single year. The only difference is this time around, you care. Like, we didn't care back in the day, because what you just said, when you're winning, like all of the imperfections and everything that's wrong with the team gets swept under the rug. Now your microphone is as loud as it has ever been, because the team has problems. Once again,
it's loud and he's just smacking that gum in it, dude. It's loud and he's smacking that gum, dude.
That did help.
No. Well, and like I think you brought up a good point too. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, you have to just be honest with the team, and you have to be honest with where you're at. And, there's such a lack of accountability. There's such a lack of, like, I'm willing to explain where we're coming from. This is what we're doing. We believe in him. That's it.
Right.
Why do you believe in him? Like, what have you seen that makes you believe in this coaching staff? What do you see in this quarterback? Why are you drafting these players? Why are you going this route and stuff? There's a total lack of accountability. And it feels like, honestly, no disrespect, he's a general manager, do your thing, man. But it's like, it's kind of a slap in the face of the fan base. And honestly, when all 31 other teams and all fan bases and all media and even your own fan base is saying, what are you doing? And you're over here being like, we're doing it perfect. When everyone is looking at you saying you're doing something wrong and you're like, no, I'm not, you're in the minority, my friend, and you might be wrong in your opinions on this. Like, it's just Mickey Loomis is, and I'm just saying Mickey Loomis, like, it's just like, it's one of those things. It's like, dude, everyone else sees it except for you.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only person blind to the imperfections and to the problems right now. And it's an unwillingness to fix it and a lack of accountability.
Yeah. That's the biggest issue. They're not holding themselves accountable. Like I said, you can't take the Who Dat Nation for granted. Shouts out to Jono. He was on the show and he was talking a little bit about sometimes he feels like New Orleans Saints and Pelicans organizations take the fans for granted. And like, you can't just say, okay, man, they're gonna come watch regardless. Like, even if that is the case, like, you still want people to come into the Caesars Superdome. the Smoothie King Center, to enjoy their experience. The Saints didn't win every game when Drew Brees was the quarterback, but they felt like they had a chance. They felt like they were going to win a football game. You sat in front of your televisions if you weren't at the game. You filed into the Superdome because you felt that the New Orleans Saints had whoever they were going against number that day. Now it's like you're watching because, like you said, Trace, you grew up as a Saints fan, so that loyalty is keeping you watching. But am I enjoying what I'm watching? The answer is absolutely not, man.
And like that's a great point too. Like it goes back to like the fans are the ones that make the whole operation really work and really thrive. And New Orleans is such a great city for sports, and like shout out if they get that hockey team, that's going to be so sick. That would be so much fun. That being said, like it's such a cool city in the sense of they're so passionate about their teams, and there's such a connection between the team and the city that you have to embrace what you have to embrace the fan base. You have to give them something to root for. And let's just talk human element too. Like I like watching sports because I like sports. I'm sure you like watch sports because you like watching sports. Sometimes I work in sports. I talk about it with my friends all the time. But I like to just watch football when I get home and just, I don't care if it's a Division II like game in college football. I don't care if it's some random Thursday night. I'm going to watch it just because I like watching sports and it's a disconnect for me. But if my disconnect makes me more frustrated than the things I need to be disconnected from, that's a problem. That is a freaking problem, if you ask me. And it's something that, again, goes right back to the top. You have to have a willingness to change, and you have to have some accountability, because if you're going to do all this dumb stuff and you're not going to be able to answer the questions, what are you doing?
Yep. I'm not going to ask you what I feel like you think their overall record is going to be, because there's still a lot of things that has to take place. But what I will ask you is they got quite a few draft picks.
Yeah.
What are you looking for the New Orleans Saints to do? Defensively, be dominant when it comes to the picks. Offensively, what are you looking for? Something maybe they haven't done in the past. What's on your mind when it comes to the draft?
So first thing is change the philosophy of going for high athletic, high potential players. Go get guys who've done it. Get guys who've been there, done that, succeeded at a high level. And, that doesn't mean that you can't go and get the guy out of Mike Green, I believe. You can't go get those. Like there's guys at small schools that are really, really talented. It's not taking away from those guys, but it's stop drafting a Marcus Davenport and make the easy decision and get the guy who's very good, who won a Heisman, who's proven to be a great player, who fits a position of need, maybe in a year or two. And so I think that's the big one, is I want to see the Saints not just draft for potential, draft for production. That's the thing that I feel like they have been missing. The other part is, offensively, get them weapons, beef it up, give Derek Carr and Kellen Moore things to play with in the regard of like, give them a line that Derek Carr can have all day to play with. Give them weapons that it doesn't have to be a perfect pass, but they'll find a way to make a play. Right. Give them easy decisions. You don't have to make Derek Carr overthink. Don't have to make Kellen Moore overthink, because Kellen Moore's a creative coach. So tap into that. And, I also will say, like, one of the things that I love about Kellen Moore that people are saying is that he does a great job of buying into and scheming things up to play into their skill sets of his team. Right. So like, that's something, like, get guys that you can work with, get guys that that can do something with you, whether it's a slot, a tight end, a guy out wide, a running back. I don't care, but you got to have guys who you can work with, not who you think you can develop and then potentially work with a couple of years from now. I also will say defensively, you just got to get dogs. You got to get some more swagger, get some more confidence, get some more moxie, like get dudes who are going to come in, show up to work, and just bring it every single week. Get guys who are hard hitters, who play with confidence. I know that the penalties with Paul Sidibe were a problem, but it's one of those things I'm like, you know what, man, if we lay a huge hit and a Will Harris type hit and it gets a penalty, and it riled everyone up, and we're going to do it again here in the next play. Like, come on, let's go again. Like that kind of stuff. And as a fan, it fires me up. It makes me like, 10-yard, 15-yard penalty, whatever, man. I'll take another big hit. That makes me excited. That's why you tune into and watch. You tune in for the big moments, for the highlight reel plays, and for the great stuff. And that doesn't mean that the ground and pound, grinded out type games aren't fun to watch, but you got to bring in guys who are just going to raise the overall talent level. And I think that that's a thing that the New Orleans Saints are missing. The roster has a lot of really nice veterans, but there's not a lot of, in my opinion, it's just not a lot of high-end talent that's young that can still do more. Like, we know Demario Davis is great. We know Tyrann Mathieu is great. We know Cam Jordan. We know these guys are good football players, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that they are on the wrong side of father time. And at some point production starts to dip. And, at some point you have to address the facts that you need to get younger. You need to get more talented, and you need to hit on these picks. I know that the cap space is a massive problem. It would not be as big of an issue if you hit on these draft picks, at least in my opinion. And I think that the Saints have to just you have 9 picks. You have 6 in the top 150. Make good decisions. You can do so much good for your team. And honestly, there is a little bit of a reset that will have to happen when you move on from Derek Carr. Inevitably, that's just the nature of the game.
True.
There is a slight reset that'll have to happen with the cap space. If you can get these guys to hit as draft picks, and Kellen Moore is a good hire, you are way, way beyond the rebuild than what you thought you could have been, earlier in this offseason when we didn't have a head coach. So I just want to see the team make good picks that make sense for the scheme, that have proven production. I don't want the potential because a guy has a high relative athletic score. I'm sorry. I'm over that. And that doesn't mean that, that's not a good thing to talk about, but it feels like the RAS was the literal bread and butter and the gospel when it came to Saints drafting. And I'm like, look, it's good. It's a nice measurement tool, but it should not be the standard. It should not be this is what it comes down to. And that's kind of how it feels like it's been operating recently, at least in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. I think the one word that has to define this draft process is culture.
Yes.
Now, the reason I'm saying this because some people will probably say, man, the Saints have culture. Yeah,
Well,
they did.
Has culture. The Saints don't.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like people. I use this as an example. I used to watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when I was growing up.
Yep.
The first season, they had one Aunt Viv, right? She left, and then they found another Aunt Viv.
Mm-hmm.
Her name was Vivian Banks, but they didn't look the same. They didn't dress the same.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they weren't even the same complexion. You know what I'm saying? But she was Vivian Banks. My point is, they're living off what they did in the past.
Yeah.
And that was cool. Like the slapping fives, the running to the cameraman when
Yep.
they make a play. It's like they trying to keep all of that stuff around. But to me, it's like you're teaching your son about certain things that you did growing up, and you expect for him to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to create your own culture.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore, some of these younger players that probably wasn't around. Like, think about this. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Alontae Taylor, these guys never been to the postseason, ever.
Yeah.
So when you're talking as Demario Davis or Cam Jordan talking about, man, we were so close, they can understand you to a certain extent, but they don't know how that feels.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to address the culture, whatever that may be, but it needs to resemble something of change. Too much Sean Payton isms for me. Drew Brees isn't for me. A great moment in time, Trace, but it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And whatever Kellen Moore's culture is, whatever Brandon Staley's culture is, it needs to coincide with what the Saints are doing going forward. I think it's time for the Saints fans to understand that the culture needs to change.
Yep.
And I think that the Saints organization needs to allow these new coaches to create a culture that may not resemble what we are used to, but it's the next level of success when it comes to Saints football.
Yeah. And change is not, change is scary. It can be great, but who's to say Kellen Moore is going to definitely be a great coach? Like that there's no guarantees that all of this is going to be 100% working. Like that could very well blow up all in our face in like 2 years and be like, well, here we are again. That being said, like if you define a culture, you develop a culture and you set a tone and you set a standard of this is the type of people we want in the locker room. This is the type of effort you need to bring on Sundays. This is the standard when you come to work at practice and at OTAs. This is what you're doing in the offseason. Like when you have those standards, it only helps. And when you have a strong culture, when the times get tough, it gets a little bit easier to manage. And when the Saints, it just feels like the culture needs to change. Like you said, it feels like, Saints fans, like you said, need to understand that. But the other thing is, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Like this is something that'll happen maybe this year we start seeing some stuff. Maybe they're like, okay, offensively, they're going to be this type of team. Defensively, they're going to be this type of team. And then you start year one, you start kind of figuring it out. Year two, you start really applying yourself. And the year three, it's hit the ground running. You got to make it work if it hasn't already. And, it's time for Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson to close the yearbook. Quite frankly, they're stuck in high school. They're stuck in the past few years. Close the yearbook, move on. It was awesome. It was great. It's like one of my friends at work, he literally said that day, he's like, it literally feels like the Saints are a bad high school relationship where you just won't get over what used to be. It was so great. It was so awesome that we got to keep that. I want my new quarterback, my new coach. I want my new team to be just like it used to be. There's also a really pretty girl at prom that you might have not talked to yet. Like I'm just saying, like there's options out there. You get out of your town in high school, there's more fish in the sea. Like it just kind of goes back to you gotta reset this culture. It's just not. You're not gonna get change until you make change. That's just kind of what it comes down to.
I mean, tale as old as time, man. But Trace, thank you so much, man, for stopping by the State of the Saints podcast, man. I really do appreciate it. Before you get up out of here, man, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you. Tell them about your channel and other projects that you have going on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on, man. I hope to do it again. Would love to have you on my show, so we'll definitely get something in the works here soon. You guys can hit me up on Twitter. It's Trace Girouard 48 or Trizzy Trace. That's my username. Instagram, it's Trace Girouard 48 _ just search Trizzy Trace. It's the same thing. And then TikTok, same old thing. My YouTube channel, Saints Now by Chat Sports, just over 42,000 subscribers, trying to keep growing, trying to keep it moving, and trying to just get more connected with the Who Dat Nation and with other Saints content creators. Because like we said at the beginning, this is a really, really cool circle to be a part of. And it's just a blessing to, get to have these acquaintances and these professional friendships and all this, and just to talk about something we all love, which is New Orleans Saints ball, which despite might be hard to love right now, we still show up and we still love it every single week. But, I hope you guys hit me up on social media. I love chopping it up. TJ, I love all the good stuff you do on socials too, man. Keep up the great work, and, look forward to the next time. This was a really, really good time. I look forward to more conversations, brother.
Oh, man, absolutely, man. I appreciate you taking the time out to be here on the podcast, and looking forward to all the projects that you have going on.
Appreciate you.
Like I said, man, I admire your work. I admire the consistency of your work, man, and the persistence. I just think that those are recipes for success. It's not a surprise that channel is blowing up the way that it has. The numbers, the subscribers. I mean, it's pretty obvious, man. I mean, the chat, for people that just found you. I mean, they got people in the chat saying right now that they're going over to subscribe.
Appreciate it.
Man, look, when you're passionate about something, you love something, I mean, people can't deny it. And you, my friend, are undeniable, and I have nothing but respect for you, man.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate
you, man. That means the world. That means the world. I look forward to more conversations. Who dat, baby?
Yeah, who dat, man. Until next time.
Yes, sir.
No, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who dat?